Jasmine Roberts clutched the champagne bottle tighter as she climbed the stairs to their bedroom, her heart racing with excitement. David's promotion to senior partner deserved a proper celebration. She'd left work early, picked up his favorite dinner from that little soul food place on 5th Street, and even wore the red dress he'd bought her for their anniversary. The house felt different somehow. Quieter than usual for a Thursday evening. Maybe David was taking a nap before dinner. He'd been working such long hours lately, preparing for this promotion. She smiled, imagining his surprised face when she burst through the door with champagne and good news about her own upcoming project at the marketing firm. Jasmine pushed open their bedroom door, words of celebration already forming on her lips. "Surprise, baby. I thought we could." The champagne bottle slipped from her fingers, crashing against the hardwood floor in an explosion of glass and foam. Time seemed to freeze as her brain struggled to process what she was seeing. David wasn't alone. A woman with long, straight hair was pressed against him, her manicured hands tangled in his shirt. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents, but the damage was already carved into Jasmine's vision forever. Jasmine. David scrambled to his feet, his face cycling through shock, guilt, and something that looked almost like annoyance. "You're supposed to be at work." The woman, tall, light-skinned, wearing what looked like expensive lingerie, grabbed for her clothes with practiced efficiency. This wasn't their first time here. In Jasmine's home. In her bed. "I wanted to surprise you," Jasmine whispered, her voice barely audible over the roaring in her ears. "For your promotion." David ran his hands through his hair, a gesture she'd once found endearing. Now it just looked guilty. "Listen, this isn't what it looks like." "Stop." The word came out stronger than she felt. "Just stop talking." The other woman was dressing quickly, avoiding eye contact. Jasmine studied her face, trying to place where she'd seen her before. Company Christmas party. David's law firm. She was one of the associates, wasn't she? Simone something. "Jasmine, if we could just sit down and talk about this like adults," David started. "Like adults?" Jasmine's voice cracked. "You want to talk about acting like adults?" 8 years of marriage. 8 years of supporting his career, hosting his colleagues, making excuses when he worked late. 8 years of believing they were building something together. 8 years of thinking she wasn't good enough, trying harder, being better. 8 years of lies. Where's Destiny? The question hit her like a physical blow. Their daughter. Their beautiful, innocent 8-year-old daughter who thought Daddy hung the moon. At your mother's, remember? You said she could spend the night since we were both working late. Right. She had said that. Back when she trusted him. Back when working late meant actually working. Simone finally looked up, her expression a mixture of defiance and embarrassment. "I should go." "Yes," Jasmine said, finding her voice again. "You should." The woman grabbed her purse and practically ran from the room. Jasmine heard the front door slam a few seconds later, the sound echoing through the house like a gunshot. David sat on the edge of their bed, his head in his hands. "I never meant for you to find out this way. But you meant for me to find out eventually?" He looked up, his eyes pleading. "It's complicated." "No, David. It's really not." Jasmine stepped carefully around the broken glass, her heels crunching on the fragments. "How long?" "What?" "How long have you been sleeping with her?" "In our house. In our bed." Each word felt like pulling glass from her throat. "Jasmine, please." "How long?" He closed his eyes. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of coming home to her, kissing her goodnight, making love to her, all while carrying on with someone else. 6 months of her wondering why he seemed distant, why he worked such long hours, why he'd started going to the gym so much. "I have to go get Destiny," she said, surprised by how calm she sounded. "We need to talk about this. We need to figure out what we're going to tell her." "We?" Jasmine turned back to face him, and for the first time since she'd opened that door, she felt something other than shock and pain. She felt anger, bright and clean and powerful. "There is no we anymore, David. You made sure of that." She walked to their closet and pulled out a suitcase, moving with mechanical precision. Underwear, pajamas, work clothes, something nice for church. Enough for a few days while she figured out what came next. "Where are you going to go?" David asked, standing up now, fully dressed again as if he could somehow undo what she'd seen. "That's not your concern anymore. She's my daughter too." Jasmine stopped packing and looked at him. Really looked at him. When had he become a stranger? When had the man she'd fallen in love with in college, the one who'd held her hand during her father's funeral and promised to love her forever, become this person who could lie to her face for months? "She's your daughter when it's convenient," Jasmine said quietly. When you need to look like a family man for the partners. When you want to play daddy on weekends. But where were you last Tuesday when she had that school play? Where were you when she was sick and I had to leave my biggest client meeting to pick her up? David's face flushed. I was working. You were with her. Jasmine zipped the suitcase closed. You were with Simone while your daughter needed you. While I needed you. She headed for the door then stopped. I want you out of this house by tomorrow. Jasmine, you can't just. This house is in my name too. The mortgage we've been paying together for 5 years. I want you out. And go where? She turned around one last time, taking in the man she'd built her whole adult life around. I don't care. Go move in with your girlfriend. Go sleep in your office. Go anywhere but here. As she walked down the stairs, stepping over the champagne and glass still scattered on the hardwood, Jasmine felt something shift inside her chest. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a grief so deep it made her knees weak. But underneath that grief was something else. For the first time in years she could breathe. The house felt different as she locked the door behind her. Not like home anymore. But not like a prison either. Just different. She got in her car and sat for a moment, hands shaking on the steering wheel. In 10 minutes she'd have to face her mother. She'd have to find words to explain why she was picking up Destiny early, why she looked like she'd seen a ghost, why everything they built was suddenly gone. But right now, in this moment, she allowed herself to fall apart. 8 years. Gone in 8 seconds. The tears came then, hot and angry and heartbroken all at once. She cried for the marriage she thought she had. She cried for the trust that was shattered. She cried for Destiny, who was about to learn that sometimes daddies don't keep their promises. But mostly she cried for herself. For the woman who tried so hard to be perfect that she'd forgotten to notice she was married to a stranger. When the tears finally stopped, Jasmine wiped her face, checked her appearance in the rearview mirror, and started the car. She had a daughter to protect and a life to rebuild. And somehow, despite everything, that felt like something she could do. Grace Thompson took one look at her daughter's face and immediately ushered her inside, closing the door softly behind them. Jasmine had always been her strong one, the child who never cried, who figured things out on her own. Seeing her standing there with red-rimmed eyes and trembling hands was like watching a mountain crumble. Baby, what happened? Grace led her to the kitchen table, the same one where Jasmine had done her homework 20 years ago, where they planned her wedding 8 years ago, where Grace had held her when her father died. I need to get Destiny, Jasmine said, her voice hollow. I need to take her home. She's watching a movie in the living room. Sit down first. Grace put the kettle on for tea, her movements automatic. Talk to me. The words came out in fragments at first, then in a rush. David. The other woman. 6 months of lies. The broken champagne bottle still scattered across their bedroom floor. Grace listened without interrupting, her face growing harder with each detail. That fool, she finally said, and the quiet fury in her voice was more frightening than if she'd screamed. That damn fool. Mama, what am I going to tell Destiny? Grace reached across the table and took her daughter's hands. The truth. Age appropriate, but the truth. She adores him. And she adores you too. More than he deserves, apparently. Grace squeezed Jasmine's fingers. Children are stronger than we think, baby. And smarter. She probably already knows something's wrong. As if summoned by her name, Destiny appeared in the doorway, her hair in the 2 neat braids Grace had done earlier. She was wearing her favorite purple pajamas with silver stars, the ones that made her feel like she was sleeping in space. Mommy? Destiny's voice was small, uncertain. Why are you here? Did something happen? Jasmine's chest tightened. Her baby. Her beautiful, innocent baby who still believed the world was safe and parents didn't break promises. Come here, sweetheart. Jasmine opened her arms, and Destiny climbed into her lap like she was still 3 years old instead of 8. You look sad, Destiny said, studying her mother's face with the intense concentration of a child who noticed everything. Did you and Daddy have a fight? How did you explain betrayal to someone who still believed in fairy tales? How did you tell your child that the person they loved most had chosen someone else? Daddy and I. Jasmine began, then stopped. She looked at her mother, who nodded encouragingly. Daddy and I are going to live in different houses for a while. Destiny's forehead wrinkled. Like when Tommy's parents got divorced? The word hit Jasmine like a slap. Divorce. She hadn't even let herself think it yet, but here was her 8-year-old daughter saying it out loud. Maybe, Jasmine said carefully. We're still figuring things out. Is it because of me? Did I do something wrong? Oh baby, no. Jasmine pulled her daughter closer. You didn't do anything wrong. Not anything. This is about grown-up problems, not about you. But I could fix it, Destiny insisted with the confidence of childhood. I could be better. I could clean my room without being asked and not talk back and... Destiny Marie Roberts. Jasmine used her full name, which always got her attention. Look at me. This is not your fault. Do you understand? This has nothing to do with you being good or bad. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people, and that's what happened here. What kind of choices? Grace stood up and moved to the stove, giving them space but staying close. Jasmine could feel her mother's steady presence, the same comfort that had gotten her through every crisis of her life. Daddy? Daddy was supposed to love only me and you, but he decided to love someone else too. And that's not fair to our family. Destiny was quiet for a long moment, processing. Like when Sarah at school said she was my best friend, but then she was also best friends with Madison and didn't invite me to her birthday party? Something like that, yes. That hurt my feelings. I know, baby. This hurts Mommy's feelings too. Are you going to cry? Jasmine looked down at her daughter, this perfect little person who worried about everyone else even when her world was falling apart. I might. Would that be okay? Destiny nodded solemnly. Granny says crying helps wash the hurt away so new happy can grow. Grace smiled from across the kitchen. Smart girl. So we're going to live with Granny? For a few days while Mommy figures some things out. Is that okay with you? Can I bring Mr. Whiskers? Her stuffed elephant, the one she'd had since she was 2. Of course. And my books. All your books. And can we still get ice cream on Fridays? Jasmine's heart broke a little more. Her daughter's biggest concern was whether their tradition would continue. Every Friday, baby. I promise. Destiny snuggled closer. Will Daddy visit? This was the harder question, the one Jasmine didn't have an answer for. I think so. We'll have to see. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, sweetheart. More than all the stars in the sky. Even more than Daddy loves that other lady? The question hung in the air like smoke. Jasmine met her mother's eyes over Destiny's head. How much did children understand? How much had Destiny already figured out? Much, much more than that, Jasmine said firmly. No one will ever love you more than I do. Good, Destiny said, apparently satisfied. Can we go get my stuff now? I want to sleep in the princess bed in Granny's spare room. Grace had decorated that room specifically for Destiny's visits, complete with a canopy bed and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. It had always been Destiny's favorite place. Let me call Mrs. Mitchell next door, Jasmine said. I want to make sure Daddy's not there when we go back. Mrs. Mitchell had lived next to them for 3 years, ever since her husband passed. She was one of those neighbors who noticed everything but minded her own business, until someone needed help. He left about an hour ago, Mrs. Mitchell reported when Jasmine called. Had a suitcase with him. Looked like he was in a hurry. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. You need anything, honey, you just call. I've got eyes on that house. The drive back to collect Destiny's things felt surreal. The house looked the same from the outside, but when they walked in, everything felt different. Smaller somehow. Like a place they used to live instead of home. Destiny ran upstairs to pack while Jasmine stood in the living room, looking at 8 years of marriage scattered around her. Wedding photos on the mantel. David's law books still stacked on the coffee table. A coffee cup with his initials that she'd bought him for Father's Day. Mommy, I can't find my library book, Destiny called from upstairs. Check under your bed, baby. Jasmine walked into the kitchen and stopped. David had cleaned up the broken glass and champagne from the hallway, but he'd left a note on the counter. Jasmine, I'm staying at the Marriott downtown. Room 412. We need to talk. David. She crumpled the note and threw it away. They talked enough for one day. Found it. Destiny bounced down the stairs with her backpack and a small suitcase, Mr. Whiskers tucked under one arm. I packed my favorite books and my school clothes and my church dress. What about pajamas? I want to wear the space ones to Granny's. They're lucky. Lucky how? They help me not be scared of the dark anymore. Maybe they'll help you not be sad anymore. Jasmine knelt down and hugged her daughter tight. How had she gotten so wise at 8 years old? You know what, baby? I think they might. As they loaded the car, Mrs. Mitchell appeared on her porch with a casserole dish. Figured you might not feel like cooking for a few days, she said, handing Jasmine the still warm dish. It's that chicken and rice your daughter likes. Mrs. Mitchell, you didn't have to. Nonsense. We look after each other in this neighborhood. The older woman's eyes were kind but sharp. That husband of yours is a fool, but you're going to be just fine. You and this little angel both. Destiny beamed at being called an angel. Back at Grace's house, they settled into a routine that felt both foreign and familiar. Destiny claimed the princess bed while Jasmine took the couch, too wired to sleep despite her exhaustion. "Mama," she said when Grace brought her another cup of tea. "What am I going to do?" "What do you want to do?" "I want to scream. I want to throw things. I want to go back to that house and burn all his clothes." Grace smiled. "All perfectly reasonable. What else?" "I want to protect Destiny. I want to make sure she doesn't get hurt by this." "Good. What else?" Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. "I want to figure out who I am without him. I've been Mrs. David Roberts for so long, I don't remember who Jasmine Thompson was." "She's still in there," Grace said gently. "She's the one who built a career while he was in law school. She's the one who bought that house. She's the one who raised that beautiful little girl. She's stronger than you remember." "I don't feel strong." "Strength isn't about not feeling broken, baby. It's about getting up anyway." Later that night, after Destiny had fallen asleep clutching Mr. Whiskers, Jasmine stood at her mother's kitchen window looking out at the street. Tomorrow she'd have to figure out lawyers and custody and how to divide a life. Tomorrow she'd have to be strong and practical and adult. But tonight, she allowed herself to grieve for the family she'd thought she was building, for the man she'd thought she'd married, for the future that had been stolen from her in 8 seconds of truth. And underneath the grief she felt something else growing. Something that felt like possibility. For the first time in years she didn't know what came next. And maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. The law office of Patterson, Mills and Associates smelled like leather and old money, designed to intimidate. Jasmine sat in the waiting room, her hands folded in her lap, trying to look more confident than she felt. She'd chosen her outfit carefully, her best navy suit, the one that made her look professional and serious. She needed all the armor she could get. "Mrs. Roberts?" A woman emerged from one of the offices, tall and elegant with graying hair pulled back in a perfect chignon. "I'm Sarah Brooks. Thank you for coming in." Attorney Brooks led her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Jasmine had driven past this building hundreds of times but never imagined she'd be sitting inside it, discussing the end of her marriage. "I've reviewed the information you provided over the phone," Attorney Brooks said, settling across from her with a thick folder. "Before we proceed, I want you to know that I've been practicing family law for 15 years, and I've seen cases like yours before. You're going to be okay." Something about her calm certainty made Jasmine's chest loosen for the first time in 3 days. "David called me," Jasmine said. "He wants to meet and discuss things rationally. He keeps saying we should try counseling." "What do you want?" The question was simple, but Jasmine realized no one had asked her that yet. Everyone had opinions about what she should do, what was best for Destiny, what was practical. But what did she want? "I want him out of my house. I want custody of my daughter. And I want to never have to see that woman again." Attorney Brooks smiled. "Those are all reasonable things to want. Let's talk about how to get them." For the next hour they went through everything. The house, purchased jointly but with Jasmine's name on the original deed. Destiny's custody, no contest that Jasmine was the primary caregiver. David's assets, more complicated given his recent promotion and the law firm's partnership structure. "There's something else," Jasmine said when they'd covered the basics. "I think this has been going on longer than 6 months." "What makes you say that?" "Little things. He started going to the gym last January. Said he wanted to get in shape but he never went to gyms before. He got a new phone in February and put a password on it. He never had passwords before. And the business trips." Jasmine trailed off, remembering. Business trips. He started traveling more. Weekend conferences, client meetings that went overnight. "I thought it was because of the promotion he was working toward, but now." Attorney Brooks made notes. "Do you have any evidence of these trips?" "Credit card statements, hotel receipts. I do the books for our household. I have everything." "Excellent. I'll need copies of all financial records for the past year. Bank statements, credit cards, investment accounts. Everything." "There's one more thing," Jasmine said, her voice getting smaller. "The woman, Simone Parker. She works at David's firm. I'm worried about, I don't know, workplace discrimination or something. If this gets messy." "Are you concerned about your own job?" "No, I work for a marketing firm downtown. But David's career. I spent 8 years supporting his ambitions. I hosted dinner parties for the partners, went to every firm event, played the perfect lawyer's wife. And now he throws it all away for someone he works with. Attorney Brooks leaned forward. Jasmine, I need you to understand something. David's career is not your responsibility. Not anymore. Your job now is to protect yourself and your daughter. The words hit harder than expected. For 8 years, David's success had been their success. His goals had been their goals. She turned down job opportunities that required travel because it would interfere with his schedule. She'd taken on all the household management so he could focus on work. When had she stopped being her own person? I need to ask some difficult questions, Attorney Brooks continued. Have there been other women? Other times you suspected something? Jasmine closed her eyes, thinking back. Maybe. There was a paralegal 2 years ago who seemed too friendly at the Christmas party. And last summer there were some late nights that didn't make sense. But I trusted him. I believed him when he said it was work. That's not your fault. It feels like it is. Like I should have known. Should have been smarter. Jasmine. Attorney Brooks's voice was firm. Cheating husbands don't cheat because their wives aren't smart enough to catch them. They cheat because they choose to. That's on David, not you. They spent another hour going over strategy. Attorney Brooks would file for separation immediately, requesting temporary custody and exclusive use of the marital home. They'd serve David with papers at his hotel, making it official. One last thing, the attorney said as they wrapped up. Are you prepared for him to fight this? To try to make you look like the unreasonable one? What do you mean? Men like David, successful, image-conscious, sometimes try to flip the narrative. Claim their wives are being vindictive or keeping the children from them out of spite. They present themselves as the reasonable party who just wants what's best for everyone. Jasmine thought about David's note, his calls requesting to discuss things rationally. Was that what he was doing? He's already started, she realized. The calls, the notes. He's trying to make it seem like I'm being dramatic. Document everything. Every call, every text, every attempt at contact. And Jasmine? Don't meet with him alone. If he wants to talk, it goes through lawyers now. Walking out of the law office, Jasmine felt simultaneously lighter and heavier. Lighter because someone was finally on her side, fighting for her interests. Heavier because this was really happening. The papers would be filed. David would be served. There would be no going back. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Destiny's school called. She had a rough morning. I picked her up early. She's okay but asking for you. Jasmine's heart clenched. She'd been so focused on legal strategy that she'd almost forgotten. Destiny was falling apart too. She found her daughter curled up on Grace's couch, still in her school uniform but with tear tracks on her cheeks. Mr. Whiskers was clutched tight in her arms. Baby, what happened? Mrs. Peterson asked me to tell the class about my family for our project. Destiny said in a small voice. And I didn't know what to say. Because I don't know if Daddy still counts as family if he doesn't live with us anymore. Jasmine's heart broke into smaller pieces. Of course Daddy still counts as family. Just because he doesn't live with us doesn't mean he stops being your daddy. But Jenny Martinez said when her parents got divorced, her daddy got a new family and forgot about her. That's not going to happen to you. How do you know? It was a fair question. How did she know? David had already shown he was capable of betrayal, of putting his own desires above their family's well-being. How could she promise he wouldn't abandon Destiny too? Because Daddy loves you, she said, hoping it was true. Even when grown-ups make mistakes with each other, they still love their children. Do you still love Daddy? Another impossible question from an 8-year-old who needed the world to make sense. I love the daddy you deserve to have, Jasmine said carefully. And I love the daddy he used to be. But I'm very hurt by the choices he made. Are you going to get a new daddy for me? Like how Daddy got a new lady? Oh, sweetheart. I'm not thinking about new anything right now. Right now I'm thinking about you and me and figuring out how to be happy together. Destiny seemed to consider this. Can we still live with Granny? I like it here. She makes better pancakes than you. Grace laughed from the kitchen. I heard that, young lady. It's true, Granny. Yours are fluffy. Mommy's are flat. For a moment it felt almost normal. Like they were just visiting, like this was temporary, like tomorrow they'd go home to their regular life. But then Jasmine's phone rang. David. She let it go to voicemail, but the sound broke the spell. This was their life now. Lawyers and custody arrangements and 8-year-olds asking impossible questions about love and family and whether daddies could be trusted. Mommy? Destiny's voice was small again. Are you going to be okay? The question hit her like a physical blow. Her 8-year-old daughter was worried about taking care of her mother. How had things gotten so turned around? I'm going to be more than okay, Jasmine said, pulling Destiny into her lap. Do you know why? Why? Because I have the most amazing daughter in the whole world. And amazing daughters make their mommies brave. Really? Really? You make me brave enough to do hard things. Like stand up for our family and make sure we're safe and happy. Destiny smiled, the first real smile Jasmine had seen from her in days. I can be brave too. Like when I was scared of the dark but I did it anyway. Exactly like that. That evening, after Destiny was asleep, Jasmine finally listened to David's voicemail. Jasmine, please. We need to talk. I know you're hurt, but we can work through this. Simone was a mistake. She doesn't mean anything. You and Destiny are my family. Call me back. Please. She deleted the message without hesitation. Simone didn't mean anything. 8 months of lying didn't mean anything. Breaking their daughter's sense of security didn't mean anything. But that was David's problem now. He'd have to figure out how to rebuild trust with Destiny through supervised visits and child support payments and awkward exchanges in parking lots. Jasmine had her own rebuilding to do. And for the first time since she'd opened that bedroom door, she was starting to believe she could do it. The process server found David at his office on a Tuesday morning, walking out of what Jasmine knew was his weekly partners meeting. She wasn't there to see it happen, but Mrs. Mitchell called to tell her that David had shown up at the house 20 minutes later, pounding on the door and shouting for her to come outside. I didn't answer, of course, Mrs. Mitchell said over the phone. But honey, he was angry. Real angry. You might want to stay away from there for a few days. Jasmine was at work, trying to focus on a campaign for a new restaurant chain, when her phone rang again. David this time. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message in her office with the door closed. Jasmine, what the hell is this? Custody papers? You're trying to take my daughter away from me? I'm coming to your mother's house tonight. We need to talk about this like adults. She called Attorney Brooks immediately. He's not allowed to come to your mother's house, the lawyer said firmly. That's harassment. If he shows up, call the police. But what if Destiny's there? I don't want her to see. Then you need to be prepared to protect her. This is what we talked about, Jasmine. Men like David don't like losing control. He's going to push back. That evening, Jasmine picked up Destiny from her after-school program and drove to Grace's house with her stomach in knots. She'd already called her mother to warn her about David's threats. Let him come, Grace had said, her voice steel hard. I've got something for him. At 7 o'clock, David's Mercedes pulled into Grace's driveway. Jasmine watched from the living room window as he got out of the car, his movements sharp and angry. He was wearing his best suit, the one he wore to court when he needed to look intimidating. Grace met him at the door before he could knock. Grace, I need to speak to my wife. She's not your wife anymore, Grace said calmly. She's my daughter. And you're not welcome here. I have a right to see Destiny. You have the right to see her during your court-appointed visitation, which hasn't been scheduled yet. Jasmine could see David's jaw clench from where she was watching. He tried to look past Grace into the house. Jasmine, come out here. We need to talk. No shouting on my property, Grace said, stepping forward slightly. And no demands. You lost the right to make demands when you decided to cheat on my daughter in her own bed. David's face flushed red. This is between Jasmine and me. No, son. This became family business the minute you involved my granddaughter. Grace's voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 60 years of dealing with men who thought they could intimidate women. Now you need to leave. I'm not leaving without seeing my daughter. Yes, you are. Destiny appeared beside Jasmine at the window. Is Daddy mad at us? Jasmine pulled her away from the window and toward the kitchen, but they could still hear the voices outside getting louder. I want to see my daughter. David was shouting now. And I want you to have been a faithful husband, Grace shot back. We don't always get what we want. You can't keep her from me. I'm not keeping her from you. The court will decide when and how you get to see her. Until then, you need to leave my property. This is ridiculous. Jasmine, I know you're in there. Stop hiding behind your mother and come talk to me. Jasmine felt something snap inside her chest. She handed Destiny to her grandmother, walked to the front door and stepped outside onto the porch. Don't you dare, she said, her voice low and furious. Don't you dare come to my mother's house and shout. Don't you dare upset my daughter. And don't you dare call me a coward when you're the one who spent 6 months sneaking around instead of telling me you wanted out of our marriage. David's expression shifted from anger to something that might have been shame, but it was gone too quickly. I never wanted out of our marriage, he said. I made a mistake. People make mistakes, Jasmine. 6 months isn't a mistake. It's a choice. A series of choices. She could feel her mother's strength behind her, Destiny's need for protection, and her own anger finally finding its voice. You chose her over us. Over and over again. For 6 months. It didn't mean anything. Stop saying that. The words exploded out of her. Stop saying it didn't mean anything. You risked our marriage, our home, our daughter's security for something that didn't mean anything? What does that make us, David? What does that make Destiny? That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. You thought you could have both. The perfect family man image for your career and your little side piece for whatever she gave you that I didn't. David flinched at the crude words, and Jasmine felt a fierce satisfaction. Let him be uncomfortable. Let him face what he'd actually done instead of hiding behind euphemisms and excuses. I want to work this out, he said, his voice smaller now. I want to save our marriage. There's nothing left to save. What about Destiny? Don't you think she deserves to have her parents together? And there it was. The manipulation attorney Brooks had warned her about. Making it about Destiny, making Jasmine the bad guy for not fixing what David had broken. Destiny deserves parents who respect each other and themselves, Jasmine said. She deserves to see what healthy relationships look like. She deserves better than watching her mother pretend everything's fine while her father lies to both of us. I wasn't lying. Every day for 6 months you came home to us and lied. Every, I love you, every kiss goodnight, every time you made love to me while you were sleeping with someone else, all lies. David ran his hands through his hair, the gesture that used to make her want to comfort him. Now it just looked pathetic. What do you want from me? He asked. You want me to grovel? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I was stupid. I'm sorry I threw away 8 years for something that meant nothing. There it is again, Jasmine said quietly. Something that meant nothing. If it meant nothing, why did you do it? He didn't have an answer for that. I want to see my daughter, he said finally. Then follow the legal process like everyone else. Schedule visits through the lawyers. Show up when you're supposed to. Be the father she deserves instead of the husband you weren't. This is my daughter too. Then act like it. Be someone she can trust. Be someone she can count on. Don't just show up here making demands when it's convenient for you. Grace stepped forward slightly, a subtle reminder that Jasmine wasn't alone in this fight. You need to leave now, Grace said, before the neighbors call the police about a disturbance. David looked around, suddenly seeming to notice that several neighbors had come out onto their porches to watch. His face flushed red again, embarrassment this time, not anger. This isn't over, he said to Jasmine. Yes it is, she replied. Our marriage is over. Our family as we knew it is over. The only thing left is figuring out how to co-parent Destiny in a way that doesn't hurt her more than you already have. David got back in his car and drove away, tires screeching slightly as he pulled out of the driveway. Jasmine stood on the porch for a long moment, her legs shaking with adrenaline and leftover anger. She'd never stood up to David like that before. In 8 years of marriage she'd been the peacekeeper, the compromiser, the one who smoothed things over. It felt terrifying and liberating at the same time. Proud of you, baby, Grace said quietly, putting an arm around her shoulders. They went back inside to find Destiny sitting at the kitchen table, carefully coloring in a coloring book but clearly listening to everything. Is Daddy coming back tonight? She asked without looking up. No, sweetheart. Daddy's going to call before he comes to visit from now on. Was he mad at me? No, baby. Daddy wasn't mad at you. He was upset about grown-up things. Destiny considered this, then looked up. Are you okay, Mommy? You sounded different outside. Different how? Stronger. Like when you told that mean lady at the store that she couldn't cut in front of us in line. Jasmine smiled despite everything. Yeah, I guess I did sound like that. I liked it, Destiny said, going back to her coloring. You sounded like you weren't scared anymore. That night, after Destiny was asleep, Jasmine sat with her mother at the kitchen table drinking tea and going over what had happened. He's going to try to make this ugly, Grace said. Men like David don't like being told no by women they think they own. I was never so angry in my life, Jasmine admitted. Part of me wanted to hit him. But you didn't. You used your words and you stood your ground. That's what matters. I keep thinking about what he said. About Destiny deserving to have her parents together. Grace was quiet for a moment. Do you think Destiny would be better off watching you pretend to forgive him? Watching you try to trust someone who's already proven he can't be trusted? Learning that women should accept betrayal as long as it keeps the family together? No, Jasmine said immediately. I would never want her to think that. Then you're doing the right thing. Jasmine's phone buzzed with a text from David. I meant what I said. This isn't over. Destiny is my daughter and I have rights. She showed the text to her mother. Save that, Grace said. And any others like it. Your lawyer will want to see them. He's going to fight for custody, isn't he? Maybe. But Jasmine, you've been Destiny's primary caregiver for 8 years. You're the one who gets up with her when she's sick, goes to her school plays, helps with homework. You know her teacher's name, her best friend's birthday, what she's afraid of in the dark. That matters in court. But he's a lawyer. He knows how to make himself look good. And you're her mother. You know how to actually be good. Later, lying on her mother's couch and listening to the house settle around her, Jasmine thought about the moment she'd stepped onto that porch. For years, she'd avoided confrontation with David, told herself it was because she was keeping the peace, maintaining harmony. But really she'd been afraid. Afraid of his anger, afraid of being wrong, afraid of not being enough. Tonight she'd been angry too. And she discovered something important. Her anger was bigger than her fear. David could hire the best lawyers, could try to paint her as the vindictive ex-wife, could make all the threats he wanted. But he couldn't make her afraid anymore. And that felt like the beginning of something powerful. 3 weeks later, Jasmine sat in Attorney Brooks' office staring at a stack of documents that painted a picture she hadn't wanted to see. Bank statements, credit card bills, hotel receipts. All the evidence of David's double life laid out in black and white. The hotel charges go back 14 months, Attorney Brooks said, pointing to highlighted entries. Always the same hotel, always overnight stays when he claimed to be at conferences. Jasmine's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. The Marriott downtown. The same hotel where he'd been staying since she kicked him out. He'd been taking Simone there for more than a year. And these restaurant charges, the attorney continued. Expensive places, always for 2 people, always on nights when you thought he was working late. 14 months. Not 6 like he'd claimed. 14 months of elaborate lies, of looking her in the eye and telling her he was working when he was actually building a relationship with someone else. There's more, Attorney Brooks said gently. The jewelry purchases. 3 separate charges at Tiffany & Company over the past year, totaling over $8,000. Jasmine had never seen any jewelry from Tiffany. He was buying her jewelry, she whispered. With our money. While I was clipping coupons and trying to save for Destiny's college fund. I know this is hard to see. No. Jasmine's voice was stronger than she felt. I need to see it. I need to know exactly what kind of man I was married to. They went through everything. The business trips that were actually romantic weekends. The client dinners that were dates. The overtime that was spent in hotel rooms and expensive restaurants, all paid for with their joint credit card. How much? Jasmine asked when they'd gone through all of it. Total expenditure on the affair? Close to $30,000 over 14 months. $30,000. Destiny's college fund. The kitchen renovation Jasmine had been saving for. The family vacation they'd been planning for this summer. All spent on another woman. There's something else, Attorney Brooks said, pulling out another folder. I had a private investigator look into Simone Parker. Jasmine's stomach clenched. What did they find? She's been having an affair with a married partner at the firm for the past 2 years. Before David. It seems to be a pattern with her. The words hit like a physical blow. David wasn't Simone's first married man. He was just the latest in a series. So I was, what? Practice? A learning experience. You were a victim, Attorney Brooks said firmly. You and Destiny both. Jasmine stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city where she'd built her life, her career, her family. Somewhere out there, David was probably at work right now, probably telling his colleagues that his wife was being unreasonable, that she wouldn't listen to reason, that he was the victim in all this. I want to destroy him, she said quietly. What? Jasmine turned back to face the attorney. I want to take him for everything he's worth. I want Simone Parker fired. I want everyone to know what kind of man he really is. Attorney Brooks was quiet for a moment. I understand the impulse. But Jasmine, revenge fantasies don't help us in court. What helps is documentation, evidence, and a clear strategy focused on your actual goals. My actual goals? Full custody of Destiny. A fair division of assets that accounts for his financial infidelity. Spousal support if you need it. Child support that actually covers Destiny's needs. Jasmine sat back down, forcing herself to focus on the practical instead of the emotional. What are my chances? With this evidence? Very good. The financial infidelity alone is going to hurt him badly. Judges don't like it when people spend marital assets on affairs. And custody? You've been Destiny's primary caregiver. You have no history of neglect or abuse. David's been having an affair for over a year, lying to his family, spending their money on another woman. Unless there's something else I don't know about, custody shouldn't be an issue. There isn't anything else. Jasmine paused. At least I don't think there is. God, how can I be sure of anything anymore? The investigator didn't find any other red flags. No drugs, no gambling, no other women. Just Simone. Just Simone. As if one affair wasn't enough. What happens now? We file for divorce and request temporary custody and support. David will probably counter with his own requests. Maybe 50-50 custody, maybe a claim that you're being vindictive. His lawyers will try to make this about your emotional state rather than his behavior. Meaning? They'll paint you as the angry ex-wife who's trying to punish him through the children. They'll say you're not thinking clearly, that you're being irrational. Jasmine laughed, but there was no humor in it. Irrational. For being upset that my husband spent 14 months lying to me and $30,000 of our money on another woman. I know. But that's how these things go sometimes. The person who gets betrayed becomes the problem for not getting over it fast enough. Well, I'm not getting over it. Not anytime soon. Good, Attorney Brooks said firmly. Getting over it is not your job right now. Protecting yourself and Destiny is your job. That evening, Jasmine picked up Destiny from her after-school program and drove to their old house to collect more of their belongings. David was supposed to be at work, but his car was in the driveway. She almost turned around and left, but then she saw Destiny's face in the rearview mirror. Her daughter had been asking about her books, her art supplies, her stuffed animal collection. She deserved to have her things. Stay in the car for just a minute, baby, Jasmine said. Let me make sure it's safe to go in. She found David in the kitchen, sitting at their table with papers spread in front of him. He looked up when she walked in, and she could see the dark circles under his eyes, the wrinkled shirt that suggested he'd been sleeping badly. Good, she thought, then immediately felt guilty for the thought. Jasmine. I didn't know you were coming by. I'm getting Destiny's things. You're supposed to be at work. I took the afternoon off. I've been trying to figure out this. He gestured to the papers on the table. Divorce documents, she realized. He'd been served with her petition. There's nothing to figure out, David. Sign them and send them back to your lawyer. $30,000, he said quietly. You're claiming I spent $30,000 on her. You did spend $30,000 on her. I have the receipts. He put his head in his hands. I never meant for it to go on so long. But it did. For 14 months. The investigator your lawyer hired has been calling my colleagues. People at work are starting to ask questions. Jasmine felt a flash of satisfaction, followed immediately by concern. What kind of questions? About my ethics. About my judgment. There's talk about me being removed from some cases because clients are uncomfortable with the eye publicity. She should have felt sorry for him. Part of her did. But mostly she felt tired. That's not my problem anymore, David. It affects Destiny too. If I lose my job, I can't pay child support. Then you should have thought of that before you decided to have an affair. Destiny appeared in the doorway, having gotten tired of waiting in the car. Daddy. She ran to him, and David scooped her up in his arms like he hadn't seen her in months instead of days. Hey, baby girl. I missed you. I missed you too. Are you coming home now? Jasmine watched David's face crumble slightly. No, sweetheart. Daddy's still living somewhere else. Why? Because sometimes grown-ups need to live in different places for a while. But I want you to come home. Jasmine felt her heart break all over again. This was the part she hated most. Watching Destiny try to understand why her family had exploded, watching her beg for something that couldn't be fixed. I know you do, baby, David said, his voice thick. But Mommy and Daddy need to figure some things out first. Destiny looked back and forth between her parents, her 8-year-old brain trying to process the tension in the room. Are you still mad at each other? We're not mad, Jasmine said carefully. We're just trying to figure out what's best for everyone. What's best is for us to be a family again, Destiny said with the absolute certainty of childhood. David met Jasmine's eyes over their daughter's head. For a moment, she saw the man she'd fallen in love with in college, the one who'd promised to love her forever, the one who'd cried when Destiny was born. But then she remembered the hotel receipts, the jewelry purchases, the 14 months of lies. Let's get your things, baby, she said to Destiny. You can spend some time with Daddy while I pack. As she gathered Destiny's books and clothes and toys, she could hear them talking in the living room. David reading her a story, Destiny chattering about school and friends, and the princess bed at Granny's house. Sounded so normal. Like a regular father-daughter evening. But normal was gone now. It had been gone for 14 months, she just hadn't known it. When they were ready to leave, David walked them to the car. "Can I call her tonight?" he asked. "Just to say goodnight?" Jasmine wanted to say no. Wanted to protect Destiny from the confusion of maintaining a relationship with someone who'd blown up their family. But looking at her daughter's hopeful face, she nodded. 8 o'clock. Before her bedtime. "Thank you." As they drove away, Destiny was quiet in the back seat. "Mommy?" "Yes, baby?" "Is Daddy sad?" Jasmine looked at her daughter in the rearview mirror. "I think he is, sweetheart." "Are you sad too?" "Sometimes. But I'm also proud of how brave you're being. And I'm excited about all the new things we're going to do together." "Like what?" "Like maybe learning to cook together. Or taking art classes. Or going on adventures, just the two of us." Destiny smiled. "Can we get a dog?" Jasmine laughed, surprising herself. "We'll see." "That means yes. That means we'll talk about it." But as they drove toward her mother's house, toward their temporary life that was starting to feel more permanent every day, Jasmine found herself actually considering it. A dog. A fresh start. A life built on honesty instead of lies. Maybe that wasn't such a bad idea after all. 2 months after the divorce papers were filed, Jasmine found herself sitting in a coffee shop across from her boss, Linda Morrison, discussing something she never thought she'd have the courage to pursue. "You want to start your own agency," Linda said, stirring her latte thoughtfully. "Marketing and brand development." "I know it sounds crazy." When Jasmine hung up the phone, she realized her hands were shaking. Not from fear this time, but from excitement. That evening, she called David to discuss their custody schedule. They'd been having these conversations regularly now, carefully formal and focused entirely on Destiny. "I'm starting my own marketing firm," she told him, unsure why she felt the need to share the news. There was silence on the other end of the line. "That's good for you," he said finally. "Is this because of the divorce? Because you feel like you need to prove something?" The question stung because part of it was true. She did feel like she needed to prove something. To herself, to Destiny, maybe even to him. "I'm doing it because I'm good at it and I want to build something of my own." What about Destiny? Starting a business takes a lot of time and energy. "I'm not abandoning my daughter to pursue a career, David. I'm building a future for both of us." "I didn't say you were abandoning her." "You implied it. Just like you always implied that my work was less important than yours, that my dreams were less valuable than your ambitions." Another silence. "I never meant to make you feel that way," he said quietly. "But you did. For 8 years I made my career secondary to yours. I turned down opportunities that would have required travel or long hours because it would interfere with your schedule. I hosted dinner parties for your colleagues while putting my own networking on the back burner. I made myself smaller so you could be bigger. I never asked you to do that. You didn't have to ask. It was expected. The lawyer's wife who supports her husband's career and doesn't cause problems. Is that really how you saw our marriage?" Jasmine thought about it honestly. "Not all of it. But a lot of it, yes. I lost myself trying to be the perfect wife for you. And now I'm trying to figure out who Jasmine Thompson is when she's not trying to be the perfect anything for anybody else." After they hung up, Jasmine sat in her mother's living room feeling lighter than she had in months. She'd been honest with David about things she'd never been able to articulate during their marriage. Whether it changed anything between them didn't matter. It changed something in her. "How did it go?" Grace asked, settling beside her on the couch. "Good. Scary but good. I think I'm actually going to do this, Mama." "I know you are. And you're going to be incredible at it." Destiny appeared from the hallway where she'd been supposedly brushing her teeth but obviously listening to the conversation. "Are we going to be rich?" she asked, climbing between them on the couch. Jasmine laughed. "I don't know about rich. But we're going to be independent. We're going to build something that belongs to us. Can I help?" "How would you like to help?" "I could draw pictures for your customers. And answer the phone. And tell everyone how good you are at making things pretty." Jasmine hugged her daughter tight. "You know what? I think you'd be excellent at all of those things. Can we get business cards? With my name on them?" "Absolutely. You can be my junior consultant." Grace smiled, watching them plan their empire from her living room couch. "You know what this reminds me of?" she said. "What?" When you were Destiny's age, you used to set up a pretend office in your bedroom. You'd make appointments for your dolls and tell them how to solve their problems. I remember that. You said I was bossy. I said you were a natural leader. There's a difference. Looking at her daughter's excited face, at her mother's proud smile, at the business plans spread across the coffee table, Jasmine felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not hope that things would go back to the way they were. Hope that they would become something entirely new. Something built on truth instead of lies, on her own strength instead of someone else's approval, on the kind of love that didn't require her to make herself smaller. For the first time since she'd opened that bedroom door and watched her life explode, Jasmine was excited about what came next. The court hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning in October. Jasmine sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, her hands folded in her lap, trying to project more confidence than she felt. Attorney Brooks sat beside her, reviewing notes and occasionally glancing at David and his lawyer across the hall. David looked polished and professional in his best navy suit, every inch the successful attorney. His lawyer, Marcus Webb, was someone Jasmine recognized from firm events. Expensive, aggressive, and known for making ugly divorces even uglier. Remember, Attorney Brooks said quietly, answer only what you're asked. Don't volunteer extra information. Don't let them make you defensive. Jasmine nodded, her mouth dry. In a few minutes, she'd have to sit in that courtroom and defend her right to primary custody of her own daughter, justify her decision to end her marriage, prove that she was the better parent. It felt surreal. Destiny was at school, blissfully unaware that her parents were in court deciding her future. Grace was watching the business. Jasmine's client list had grown to 12 small businesses in just 2 months, keeping her busy even as her personal life fell apart in legal proceedings. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Williams. The bailiff's voice cut through Jasmine's nervous thoughts. Judge Williams was a black woman in her 50s, known for being fair but tough. Jasmine tried to take that as a good sign. The first hour was mostly procedural, financial disclosures, asset division, the basic mechanics of dismantling 8 years of shared life. David's lawyer tried to argue that Jasmine was being vindictive by requesting the house, that she was trying to punish David financially. Your Honor, Attorney Brooks responded, Mrs. Roberts was the primary financial contributor to the down payment on this house, having used her inheritance from her deceased father. She's also been the primary caregiver for the couple's daughter for 8 years. Keeping the family home provides stability for the child. And the alleged financial misconduct? Judge Williams asked, looking over her glasses at the stack of receipts and bank statements. Mr. Roberts spent over $30,000 of marital assets on an extramarital affair, Your Honor. Hotel rooms, expensive dinners, jewelry for his companion. This is documented financial infidelity. David's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client admits to poor personal judgment, but Mrs. Roberts is inflating these numbers and mischaracterizing normal business expenses. Business expenses? Judge Williams interrupted. Mr. Webb, are you telling me that jewelry purchases at Tiffany & Company are business expenses for a family law attorney? That's not what I meant, Your Honor. Good. Because that would concern me greatly about your client's understanding of business ethics. Jasmine allowed herself a small smile. Judge Williams was not buying the excuses. But then came the custody discussion and David's lawyer went on the attack. Your Honor, Mrs. Roberts has been alienating my client from his daughter since their separation. She's refused to allow reasonable visitation, moved the child out of the family home without notice, and is now attempting to use the minor child as a weapon against my client. Jasmine's jaw dropped. That's not true. Attorney Brooks put a warning hand on her arm. Objection, Your Honor. Mrs. Roberts has facilitated regular phone calls and visits according to the temporary order. Mr. Roberts has seen his daughter every other weekend for the past 2 months. But only supervised visits, David's lawyer pressed. Mrs. Roberts refuses to allow overnight visitation, claims my client is somehow dangerous to his own child. Because he showed up at my mother's house shouting and making threats, Jasmine said before she could stop herself. Mrs. Roberts, Judge Williams said firmly, personal marital issues don't necessarily impact parenting ability, Your Honor. Mr. Webb, are you familiar with the concept of moral fitness as it relates to child custody? David's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Of course, Your Honor, but because lying to one's family for over a year, spending marital assets on an affair, and then becoming aggressive when confronted with the consequences suggests a significant lack of judgment and moral character. Jasmine felt her chest loosen slightly. Judge Williams was not impressed with David's behavior. However, the judge continued, the court's primary concern is the best interests of the child. Mrs. Roberts, I'd like to hear from you directly. What custody arrangement do you believe would be best for your daughter? Jasmine stood, her legs shaking slightly. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. Your Honor, I want Destiny to have a relationship with her father. Despite everything that's happened between us, he's still her daddy and she loves him. But I also want her to feel safe and stable. And you don't believe she would feel safe in her father's care? I believe she would feel confused and hurt if she were forced to spend equal time in a home where her father brings his girlfriend. Destiny is 8 years old. She's already struggling to understand why her family fell apart. I don't think she should be exposed to the woman who helped destroy her parents' marriage. Has Mr. Roberts indicated he plans to have his girlfriend around during his parenting time? Jasmine looked at David, who was staring at his hands. He hasn't said one way or the other, Your Honor. Judge Williams turned to David. Mr. Roberts, what are your intentions regarding Miss Parker's presence during your parenting time? David stood slowly. Your Honor, Simone and we're trying to work things out. She's an important part of my life now, and eventually Destiny would need to accept that. The courtroom was silent for a moment. Jasmine stared at him in disbelief. He was actually planning to have Destiny spend time with the woman he'd cheated with. I see, Judge Williams said, her voice carefully neutral. And how do you think your 8-year-old daughter would feel about being required to accept your affair partner? Children are resilient, Your Honor. They adapt. Mr. Roberts, let me be very clear about something. This court does not require children to adapt to their parents' poor choices. Children do not exist to make adults feel better about their bad decisions. David's face reddened. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? I meant that eventually, if Simone and if we were to get married, Destiny would need to accept her as part of the family. Judge Williams removed her glasses and cleaned them slowly, a gesture that somehow felt ominous. Mr. Roberts, are you engaged to Miss Parker? Not officially, Your Honor. But you're considering marriage to the woman you had an affair with while married to the mother of your child? Yes, Your Honor. That's a possibility. Jasmine felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Marriage. David was actually considering marrying Simone. The woman who'd helped destroy Destiny's family might become her stepmother. And you see no problem with requiring your 8-year-old daughter to spend half her time in a home with a woman who participated in the destruction of her original family? David's lawyer was frantically trying to signal him to stop talking, but David seemed determined to dig himself deeper. Your Honor, I understand that the situation is complicated, but Simone is a good person. She's actually very good with children. Stop. Judge Williams held up her hand. Mr. Roberts, I strongly advise you to stop talking immediately. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today. The financial records, the testimony, and the competing custody proposals. I'm prepared to make a ruling on temporary custody and visitation. Jasmine's heart pounded so hard she was sure everyone in the courtroom could hear it. First, regarding the marital assets and property division. The evidence clearly shows that Mr. Roberts spent a significant amount of marital funds on an extramarital affair. This constitutes financial misconduct, and those expenditures will be factored into the final property settlement. Mrs. Roberts will retain the family home. David's face went pale, but he said nothing. Second, regarding custody. The court finds that Mrs. Roberts has been the primary caregiver for the minor child and has demonstrated a clear commitment to the child's best interests. Mr. Roberts, while having fundamental parental rights, has shown concerning judgment regarding how his personal relationships might affect his daughter. Judge Williams looked directly at David. Mr. Roberts, you will have supervised visitation with your daughter every other weekend and one evening per week. These visits will be supervised by a court-appointed monitor until you can demonstrate that you're capable of prioritizing your daughter's emotional needs over your romantic relationship. Supervised. David stood up abruptly. Your Honor, I'm her father. Mr. Roberts, you are a father who just told this court that you expect your 8-year-old daughter to accept your affair partner as part of her family. You are a father who prioritized a romantic relationship over your marriage and your child's stability. Until you can demonstrate better judgment, your visits will be supervised. This is ridiculous. Mr. Roberts. Judge Williams's voice cut through the courtroom like a whip. You will sit down and you will stop arguing with this court's ruling, or I will hold you in contempt. David sat down, his face red with anger and humiliation. Furthermore, the judge continued, there will be no contact between the minor child and Miss Parker. If Mr. Roberts wishes to pursue a relationship with Miss Parker, that is his choice, but that relationship will not intersect with his parenting time. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor, David said through gritted teeth. Mrs. Roberts, do you have any questions about this arrangement? Jasmine stood on shaking legs. No, Your Honor. Thank you. This court will review the custody arrangement in 6 months. Mr. Roberts, if you can demonstrate that you've completed parenting classes and couples counseling, and that you can prioritize your daughter's needs appropriately, we may revisit the supervision requirement. As they left the courthouse, Jasmine felt like she was walking through a dream. She'd won. Not just the house, not just primary custody, but validation that she wasn't being unreasonable or vindictive. A judge had looked at all the evidence and agreed that David's choices had been harmful to their family. How do you feel? Attorney Brooks asked as they walked to the parking garage. Numb, Jasmine admitted. I keep waiting for the relief to hit, but mostly I just feel sad. Sad. For Destiny. She's going to be heartbroken that she can't just go stay with her daddy whenever she wants. She doesn't understand why everything has to be so complicated now. You protected her, Attorney Brooks said firmly. You kept her from being put in an impossible situation where she'd have to interact with her father's affair partner. That took courage. In her car, Jasmine sat for a few minutes before starting the engine. Her phone buzzed with a text from Grace. How did it go? We won. Primary custody, the house, everything. Praise God. Come home. I made your favorite soup and Destiny wants to show you her art project. Home. For the first time in months, the word didn't feel complicated or painful. Home was where her mother made soup and her daughter created art projects and her business was growing one client at a time. Home was where people told the truth and kept their promises and loved each other without conditions or betrayals. As she drove toward that home, Jasmine's phone rang. David. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Jasmine. His voice was rough, defeated. I need to apologize. For which part? All of it. The affair. The lies. What I said in court today about Simone and Destiny. Jasmine was quiet, waiting. I never meant for things to get this ugly, he continued. I never meant to hurt Destiny. But you did hurt her. You hurt both of us. I know. And I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry I threw away our family for something that wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth $30,000 and 14 months of lies. It wasn't worth losing you. Either of you. For a moment, Jasmine felt an echo of the old pain, the grief for the marriage she'd thought they had. But it was distant now, like a scar that only ached in bad weather. David, I need you to understand something. I'm not keeping Destiny from you to punish you. I'm protecting her because you've shown that you can't be trusted to put her needs first. The supervised visits were exactly what you earned. When you can prove that you're more committed to being her father than you are to your relationship with the woman who helped you destroy her family, then we can talk about changing the arrangement. And if Simone and I break up, then that's between you and Simone. It doesn't change what you did to our family. After they hung up, Jasmine felt something shift inside her chest. The anger was still there, but it was quieter now. She was no longer the woman who'd stood in her bedroom doorway watching her life shatter. She was someone stronger. Someone who could fight for what mattered and win. Someone who could build a new life from the ashes of the old one. When she got to her mother's house, Destiny ran to meet her at the door. Mommy, guess what? I made a poster for your business. She held up a piece of construction paper covered in glitter and crayon drawings of smiling people. At the top, in her careful 8-year-old handwriting, it said, Mommy's company makes everyone happy. It's perfect, Jasmine said, hugging her daughter tight. Absolutely perfect. And for the first time in a very long time, she meant it. 6 months later, Jasmine stood in the empty storefront on 5th Street, envisioning where everything would go. The front would be a reception area with comfortable chairs and her daughter's artwork on the walls. The back would be her office and a conference room for meeting with clients. Thompson and Associates Marketing Solutions would be painted on the window in elegant gold lettering. She'd chosen to use her maiden name professionally, reclaiming the identity she'd set aside when she became Mrs. David Roberts. It's perfect, Grace said, walking through the space with the enthusiasm of a grandmother who'd watched her daughter rebuild her life from scratch. Close to downtown, good parking, and that big window will let in beautiful natural light. Destiny was less interested in the business potential and more excited about the small office in the back corner. This is my room, right, Mommy? For when I come here after school? That's right, baby. Your own desk, your own supplies, and a comfortable chair for doing homework while mommy works. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of growth. Her client list had expanded to 23 businesses, including 2 restaurants, a boutique clothing store, a fitness center, and several professional services. Word of mouth in the Black business community was powerful, and Jasmine had discovered she had a gift for understanding what small business owners needed to connect with their customers. Mrs. Patterson's soul food restaurant had become her showcase client. The rebranding campaign Jasmine designed had increased their business by 40%, and Mrs. Patterson had recommended her to half the business owners in the neighborhood. "You sure you're ready for this big step?" Grace asked as they walked around the empty space, measuring and planning. "I'm terrified," Jasmine admitted. "But it's a different kind of scared than I used to be. It's excited scared instead of afraid scared." The lease was reasonable, the location was perfect, and Linda Morrison had officially become her business partner and mentor, investing in the company and providing guidance while maintaining her own semi-retirement. "What about Daddy?" Destiny asked, settling into what would become her homework corner. "Will he come see my office?" The question still stung sometimes, but less than it used to. David's supervised visits had been consistent, every other Saturday and Wednesday evening, always with a court monitor present. He'd completed the parenting classes Judge Williams required and was working on rebuilding his relationship with Destiny. The relationship with Simone had ended 3 months ago, apparently when she realized that David came with more complications than she'd anticipated. Jasmine felt no satisfaction in their breakup, only hope that David might finally focus on being a better father. "If he wants to see it and if it's during one of his visit times, then yes," Jasmine said carefully. "But this is our space, baby. Yours and mine and Granny's." "And Mrs. Mitchell's?" Jasmine smiled. Their elderly neighbor had become an unexpected ally, helping with Destiny after school and offering business advice from her years as a bookkeeper. Mrs. Mitchell had even helped Jasmine apply for a small business loan, sharing connections from her late husband's network. Mrs. Mitchell can visit anytime she wants. That evening they celebrated with dinner at Mrs. Patterson's restaurant, Jasmine's first client and still one of her favorites. Mrs. Patterson insisted on bringing them extra dessert and sitting with them to hear about the new office. "I'm so proud of you, honey," she said, patting Jasmine's hand. "When you first came here to work on my signage, I could see you had something special. You listened to what I really needed, not just what I said I wanted." "What's the difference?" Destiny asked, curious as always. "Well, baby girl, I thought I needed prettier signs. But what I really needed was to help customers understand what made my restaurant different from all the other places they could eat. Miss Jasmine figured that out and helped me tell my story better." "Mommy's good at helping people tell their stories," Destiny said matter-of-factly. "Yes, she is. And now she's helping tell her own story too." Later, as they drove home to the house that was finally, legally, officially theirs, Jasmine reflected on how much had changed. The divorce had been finalized 2 months ago. David had kept his pension and his partnership in the law firm. Jasmine had kept the house, primary custody of Destiny, and a substantial settlement that accounted for his financial misconduct. More importantly, she'd kept her dignity and her peace of mind. "Mommy?" Destiny's voice from the back seat interrupted her thoughts. "Yes, baby? Are you happy now?" The question caught Jasmine off guard. "What do you mean?" "You seem different than you did when you and Daddy were married. Like, lighter. Like you're not carrying something heavy anymore." Sometimes her daughter's perception was startling. "I think I am happier, sweetheart. Different happy than before, but real happy." "Good. I like it when you laugh more." That night, after Destiny was asleep, Jasmine sat with Grace on the front porch of their house, drinking tea and planning the business launch. "You know what I realized today?" Jasmine said. "What's that?" "I spent 8 years trying to be the perfect wife for David, but I never asked myself what kind of wife I wanted him to be for me." Grace nodded thoughtfully. "What kind of wife did you want him to be?" Jasmine laughed. "That doesn't make sense, Mama." "Sure it does. What I mean is, what kind of partner did you want? What did you need from him that you never asked for?" "Honestly, I wanted him to be proud of me. My work, my ideas, my dreams. I wanted him to think I was as smart and capable as he was. But I was so busy trying to support his ambitions that I never really shared mine. And now I don't need anyone else to be proud of me. I'm proud of myself." "That's the difference between being dependent and being interdependent," Grace said. "When you're dependent, you need someone else to make you feel valuable. When you're interdependent, you bring your own value to the relationship." "Think I'll ever want to try again? Marriage, I mean." Grace smiled. I think someday you might meet someone who sees your strength and your independence and loves you more because of it, not in spite of it. Someone who makes you more yourself, not less. And if I don't? Then you'll have built an amazing life with your daughter and your business and your community. There are worse things than being single and successful and surrounded by people who love you. The next week, Jasmine signed the lease on her office space and scheduled the grand opening for a month later. She hired a part-time assistant, a recent college graduate named Kia who reminded her of herself at that age, full of ideas and ambition. She also made a decision about David's visitation. I want to request that the supervision be lifted, she told Attorney Brooks during their monthly check-in. Are you sure? The court order doesn't require you to make that request. I know. But David's been consistent with his visits. He's completed all the classes the judge required. And Destiny needs to have a real relationship with her father, not just monitored visits. What changed your mind? Jasmine thought about it. I'm not afraid of him anymore. I'm not afraid he'll try to poison Destiny against me or manipulate her emotions. I trust myself to handle whatever happens. And if he introduces her to another girlfriend? Then we'll deal with it when it happens. But I can't control David's choices. I can only control my response to them. The motion was filed and approved. Starting the next month, David would have unsupervised visits with Destiny every other weekend and one evening per week. When Jasmine told Destiny the news, her daughter's face lit up. Really? I can go stay at Daddy's apartment and he can make me pancakes and we can watch movies? Really? But Destiny, I need you to remember something. If anything happens during your visits that makes you uncomfortable, you can always call me. Day or night, okay? What kind of uncomfortable? If Daddy brings someone around that you don't want to meet. If he says things about Mommy that hurt your feelings. If he makes promises he doesn't keep. Anything that doesn't feel right. Destiny nodded solemnly. I can take care of myself, Mommy. You taught me to be brave. Yes, I did. And you taught me too. The grand opening of Thompson & Associates Marketing Solutions was everything Jasmine had dreamed of. The office was filled with clients, friends, neighbors, and local business owners. Mrs. Patterson catered the event, Grace managed the guest book, and Destiny gave tours of her homework corner to anyone who would listen. Linda Morrison made a speech about Jasmine's talent and vision. Several clients shared success stories about how her marketing strategies had helped their businesses grow. The mayor even stopped by to welcome the new business to the community. But the moment that meant the most was when Mrs. Mitchell pulled Jasmine aside near the end of the evening. I want you to know something, honey, she said quietly. I've been watching you for months now, ever since all that trouble started with your husband. I've seen you fall apart and put yourself back together, and I want you to know, you're not the same woman who used to live next door to me. What do you mean? That woman was trying so hard to be perfect that she forgot to be powerful. This woman? Mrs. Mitchell gestured around the office at the celebration, at Destiny showing off her art on the walls. This woman knows who she is and what she's worth. As the last guests left and Jasmine locked up her new office, she stood for a moment looking at the gold lettering on the window. Thompson & Associates. Her name, her business, her dream made real. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. Congratulations on the new business. Destiny showed me the pictures. I'm proud of you. For the first time in a year, a message from David didn't make her stomach clench or her jaw tighten. It was just, nice. A kind gesture from someone who'd once been important to her and would always be connected to her through their daughter. She texted back, thank you. She's excited about her visit starting next weekend. Me too. I won't let her down, Jasmine. I know you won't. And surprisingly, she meant it. 1 year later, Jasmine stood at the back of Destiny's school auditorium, watching her daughter accept an award for outstanding academic achievement. 9 years old now, Destiny had grown taller and more confident, her smile bright as she shook hands with Principal Anderson. That's my grandbaby, Grace whispered proudly, taking pictures with her phone. David was there too, sitting 3 rows ahead with his parents, who'd driven in from Atlanta for the ceremony. He'd been consistent with his visitation for the past year, and his relationship with Destiny had grown stronger without the artificial barrier of supervision. The relationship between Jasmine and David had evolved too. Not friendship exactly, but a kind of respectful partnership focused entirely on their daughter's well-being. They texted about school events and medical appointments. They attended parent-teacher conferences together, sitting on opposite sides of the room but presenting a united front when it came to Destiny's education. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. After the ceremony, families gathered in the hallway for pictures and congratulations. Destiny ran to Jasmine first, her award clutched in her hand. "Mommy, did you see? I got the Academic Excellence Award." "I saw, baby. I'm so proud of you." David approached them carefully, and Jasmine felt the familiar moment of awkwardness that still happened at these shared events. "Great job, kiddo," he said to Destiny, giving her a hug. "Grandma and Grandpa Roberts are here to see you too." Destiny's face lit up. She loved David's parents, who'd always been kind to Jasmine even during the worst parts of the divorce. "Can I go say hi to them?" "Of course," Jasmine said. "We'll be right here." As Destiny ran off to her grandparents, David turned to Jasmine. "She's doing really well," he said. "Her teacher says she's reading at a 6th grade level." "I know. She reads to me every night." Jasmine paused, then decided to share something. "She's been asking about starting piano lessons." "That's a great idea. I could help with the cost if you want." "I can handle it, but thank you. The business is doing well." This was new territory for them. Casual conversation about their daughter without the underlying tension of legal battles or custody fights. It was still strange but not unpleasant. "I heard you're expanding," David said. "Opening a second office?" Jasmine was surprised he knew. "Where did you hear that?" "Destiny mentioned it during our last visit." "She's very proud of you." "I'm proud of her too. She's handling everything so well, considering her parents got divorced because her father was an idiot?" The bluntness of it caught Jasmine off guard. David had never been quite so direct about his role in their family's dissolution. "You weren't an idiot," she said carefully. "You made choices I couldn't live with, but that doesn't make you an idiot. It makes me something. I threw away 8 years of marriage and nearly destroyed my relationship with my daughter for someone who dumped me the minute things got complicated." "David." Jasmine wasn't sure what to say. She'd moved past the anger, but she wasn't ready for his regret either. "I'm not trying to make you feel sorry for me," he said quickly. I want you to know that I understand what I lost, what I gave up, and I'm grateful that you've let me stay in Destiny's life despite everything." Before Jasmine could respond, Destiny came bouncing back with David's parents in tow. "Grandma Roberts wants to take me out for ice cream to celebrate," she announced. "Can I go, Mommy? Please?" Jasmine looked at David's mother, a kind woman who'd always treated her like a daughter. Despite the divorce, their relationship had remained warm. "Of course, sweetheart. Just be back by 7 for dinner." As they left, Grace appeared at Jasmine's side. "How was that?" she asked, having witnessed the conversation with David. "Strange. He seems different. Sadder maybe. More aware of what he lost." "And how do you feel about that?" Jasmine considered the question. "I feel sorry for him, but not in a way that makes me want to fix anything. More like feeling sorry for someone who gets caught in the rain because they didn't bring an umbrella." "That's healthy," Grace said. "You can have compassion for him without taking responsibility for his choices." That evening, Jasmine worked late at her office, preparing for a presentation to a potential new client, a chain of beauty salons looking to rebrand. The business had grown beyond her wildest expectations. 28 clients now, ranging from small family restaurants to mid-sized professional services. She'd hired 2 more employees and was indeed considering opening a second location. Her phone rang as she was packing up. Unknown number. "Thompson and Associates, this is Jasmine." "Jasmine? This is Simone Parker." Jasmine nearly dropped the phone. "Simone." David's former affair partner, calling her office. What can I do for you?" Jasmine managed to say. "I know this is probably the last call you expected, but I was wondering if we could meet. For coffee or something. I have some things I'd like to say to you." Every instinct told Jasmine to hang up. What could this woman possibly have to say that she needed to hear? "Why?" she asked instead. "Because I owe you an apology. A real one. And because I think there are some things you should know about David. About that whole situation." "Simone, I'm not interested in rehashing." "It's not about rehashing anything. It's about..." "Look, I know I'm probably the last person you want to talk to, but I've been in therapy for the past year, trying to figure out why I keep making the same mistakes with married men, and I realized I never took responsibility for my part in what happened to your family." Jasmine was quiet, processing. Part of her was curious about what Simone had to say. Part of her never wanted to see or speak to the woman again. "One coffee," she said finally. "In public. And if I decide I want to leave, you don't follow me or try to continue the conversation." "Agreed. Thank you, Jasmine." "Really?" They met 3 days later at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory that neither of them had history with. Jasmine arrived first and chose a table by the window, where she'd feel less trapped. Simone looked different than she remembered from that horrible day. Smaller, somehow less polished. More human. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me," Simone said as she sat down. "I honestly wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Not for dating David. We were both adults and he was separated when we started seeing each other seriously. But for what happened before that. For being part of something that hurt you and your daughter." Jasmine studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agenda. She saw only what looked like genuine remorse. "Why now?" Jasmine asked. "It's been over a year. Because I've been doing a lot of work on myself, trying to understand why I keep getting involved with unavailable men. And I realized that I never actually faced what I participated in. I told myself that David's marriage was already over, that I wasn't really breaking up a family because the family was already broken. But that was a lie I told myself to avoid feeling guilty. His marriage wasn't over. You didn't know anything was wrong. I helped him lie to you for months." Jasmine felt some of the old anger stirring, but it was manageable now. Distant. "You did," she agreed. "You helped him lie to me and to our daughter." "I know. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was selfish and thoughtless and willing to be part of something that hurt innocent people." They sat in silence for a moment. Jasmine sipped her coffee and studied this woman who'd been part of the worst period of her life. "Is that all you wanted to say?" "Not quite." Simone shifted uncomfortably. "There's something else. Something I think you should know about David." "What?" "The affair didn't start when he said it did. It started almost 2 years ago, not 14 months. Jasmine felt the coffee turn bitter in her mouth. "What?" "We met at a bar association event in early 2022. We started talking. Flirting. Nothing physical at first, but definitely emotional. The physical part started about 6 months later. 2 years. 2 full years of betrayal, not 14 months. Why are you telling me this?" "Because he lied to you in court. And because—" Simone hesitated. "Because you deserve to know the truth about what you were dealing with. David's very good at compartmentalizing, at telling himself that something doesn't count if it doesn't meet his technical definition of cheating." Jasmine set down her coffee cup carefully, afraid her hands might shake. "Was I the first wife he cheated on, or just the first one who caught him? I don't know about other wives, but I wasn't his first affair." The words hung in the air like smoke. Jasmine felt something settle into place in her mind, a final piece of understanding about the man she'd been married to. "Thank you for telling me," she said finally. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Honestly, it explains some things. Why the divorce felt necessary instead of tragic. Why I never really grieved the loss of our marriage, just the loss of what I thought our marriage was. You're stronger than I would be in your situation." Jasmine looked at this woman who'd been part of dismantling her life and felt, surprisingly, a kind of pity. "Simone, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you still looking for married men to date?" Simone's face flushed red. "I'm not dating anyone right now. I'm trying to figure out why I keep making the same mistakes. I hope you do figure it out. Not for my sake, but for yours. And for the sake of the wives who don't know yet." As Jasmine walked back to her car, she felt lighter somehow. Not because of the apology, though she was glad Simone had taken responsibility for her actions. But because the final piece of her old life had been resolved. David hadn't just made one mistake with one woman. He was someone who cheated. Someone who lied. Someone who'd been doing it longer and more systematically than she'd known. And she'd gotten out. She'd saved herself and Destiny from a life built on lies. Her phone buzzed with a text from her daughter. "Mommy, can we get pizza for dinner? Daddy's dropping me off at 6 and he said he might stay for dinner if that's okay?" Jasmine smiled and texted back, "Pizza sounds perfect. Tell Daddy he's welcome to stay." 6 months ago, the idea of having David over for dinner would have felt impossible. But now it just felt like co-parenting. Like adults who shared a child and could be in the same room without drama or tension. She'd built something better than the life she'd lost. She'd built something real. 2 years after the divorce was finalized, Jasmine stood in front of the bathroom mirror in her newly renovated master bedroom, getting ready for Destiny's 10th birthday party. The house looked nothing like it had during her marriage to David. She'd redecorated every room, making it truly hers instead of a showcase for someone else's idea of success. "Mommy, the first guests are here," Destiny called from downstairs. Jasmine smiled, applying one last coat of lipstick. Today was going to be perfect. Destiny had invited 12 friends for a backyard party, complete with a bounce house, face painting, and a cake decorated with shooting stars, her current obsession. Downstairs, the house was full of 10-year-old energy and excitement. Grace was directing the older kids to help set up games while Mrs. Mitchell supervised the face painter they'd hired. Linda Morrison had even stopped by with a gift, officially welcomed now as part of their chosen family. David arrived right on time with his parents, carrying a carefully wrapped present and wearing a genuine smile. His relationship with Destiny had grown stronger over the past year, and he'd proven himself to be a reliable and caring father, even if he hadn't been a trustworthy husband. "The yard looks amazing," he told Jasmine as they watched Destiny and her friends jump in the bounce house. "She's going to remember this party forever." "That's the plan." They stood together comfortably, two people who'd learned how to be successful co-parents despite their history. It hadn't been easy, but they'd figured out how to put Destiny first without sacrificing their own emotional well-being. "Jasmine," David said after a while, "I wanted to tell you something. I've been seeing a therapist." "That's good," she said, meaning it. "I've been trying to understand why I made the choices I made. Why I sabotaged something good for something temporary." Jasmine glanced at him, curious despite herself. "What did you figure out?" "That I was scared," he admitted. "Scared of being successful, scared of having something real to lose. So I sabotaged it before it could disappoint me or before I could disappoint it." "That's very insightful." "The therapist says I have issues with intimacy and commitment. That I created chaos to avoid dealing with real closeness." Jasmine considered this. It actually made sense thinking back over their marriage. The way David had always seemed most comfortable when they were solving problems or dealing with crises. The way he'd pulled away whenever things were going too well. "I'm glad you're working on it," she said. "For your sake, but mostly for Destiny's." After she hung up, Jasmine sat in her office looking around at what she'd built. Awards from local business organizations lined the shelves. A photo of her and her team at the grand opening of their second location sat on her desk next to pictures of Destiny at various school events. This was her life now. Not perfect but honest. Not without challenges but built on truth instead of lies. Her computer chimed with an email from a potential new client. A nonprofit organization that worked with women transitioning out of domestic violence situations. They needed help with their marketing and fundraising efforts. As Jasmine read their message, she felt a familiar stirring of purpose. This was the kind of work that mattered. The kind that made a difference beyond just profit margins and brand recognition. She was composing her reply when she heard footsteps on the stairs. Grace appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of tea. "Working late again?" "Just finishing up. And Mama, guess what? The Small Business Administration wants to feature us in their annual report." Grace's face lit up with pride. "Of course they do. You've built something remarkable here. We've built something remarkable. I couldn't have done any of this without you." Grace settled into the comfortable reading chair Jasmine had placed by the window. "You would have found a way. That's who you are." "Is it? Sometimes I still feel like I'm pretending to be someone braver than I actually am." "Baby, brave isn't about not being scared. Brave is about being scared and doing what needs to be done anyway. You've been brave your whole life, you just didn't know it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking tea and listening to the house settle around them. Their house now, filled with genuine peace instead of carefully maintained appearances. "Mama, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you think I'll ever want to get married again?" Grace smiled. "Do you want to?" "I don't know. Sometimes I think it would be nice to have a partner, someone to share things with. But then I remember how much of myself I lost trying to be the perfect wife, and I'm not sure I ever want to risk that again." "What if you met someone who made you more yourself instead of less? Someone who celebrated your strength instead of being threatened by it?" "Does that actually exist?" "I think so. But Jasmine, you don't need another person to complete you. You're already complete. If someone comes along who adds to your life without requiring you to diminish yourself, that's different. But you're not incomplete without a partner. Sometimes I feel like I should want it more. Like there's something wrong with me for being so content with our life as it is." "There's nothing wrong with you. You've built a beautiful life with your daughter, your mother, your business, your community. That's not settling or giving up. That's choosing what actually makes you happy instead of what other people think should make you happy." The next morning was a Saturday, and Jasmine woke to the smell of pancakes and the sound of Destiny chattering excitedly about something. She found them in the kitchen, Grace at the stove and Destiny at the table with what looked like college brochures spread out in front of her. "College brochures?" Jasmine asked, raising an eyebrow. "You're 10 years old." "I know, but I want to plan ahead. I want to study business like you and art like I love, and maybe psychology so I can help people like Daddy's therapist helps him. Grace laughed. This child has been up since 6 o'clock making lists and looking up schools on my tablet. I want to be prepared, Destiny said seriously. And I want to make sure I can get scholarships so you don't have to worry about paying for everything. Jasmine's heart swelled with love and pride. Her daughter was already thinking about the future with confidence and optimism, assuming she'd have choices and opportunities, planning to contribute rather than just receive. Baby, you don't have to worry about college costs. That's my job. I know, but I want to help. We're a team, right? Right. We're definitely a team. After breakfast, they spent the morning working in the garden Jasmine had planted in the backyard. It was something she'd never had time for during her marriage, but now she found it therapeutic to work with her hands, to plant things and watch them grow. Mommy, look. Destiny called from the tomato plants. The first ones are turning red. Perfect timing. We can make salsa for Mrs. Patterson's restaurant. Can we take some to Daddy too? He said he's trying to eat healthier. Of course we can. David had been making genuine efforts to be a better person, not just a better father. He'd lost weight, started exercising regularly, and even begun volunteering with a legal aid organization that helped low-income families with custody issues. Jasmine's phone rang while they were working. Linda Morrison. Jasmine, I have news. Big news. What kind of news? The kind where a major corporation wants to hire us to handle the marketing for their entire Southeast region. The kind where we'd need to expand to at least 3 more locations and hire 20 more people. Jasmine sat down heavily on her garden bench, dirt-covered gloves still on her hands. How major are we talking? Major enough that you'd never have to worry about money again. Major enough that you could probably retire by 40 if you wanted to. And the downside? It would change everything. The company would get big, corporate, complicated. You'd spend more time managing and less time creating. And there would be travel, lots of it. Jasmine looked at Destiny, who was carefully watering the pepper plants and humming to herself. At Grace, who was deadheading the roses and looking completely content. At their house, their garden, their peaceful Saturday morning routine. Can I think about it? Of course. But Jasmine? You should know that this is the kind of opportunity most people in our business dream about their entire careers. After Linda hung up, Jasmine sat in her garden trying to imagine what that kind of success would look like. More money, more prestige, more recognition. But also less time with Destiny, less involvement in the day-to-day operations she loved, less connection to the small businesses that had been her foundation. What's wrong, Mommy? Destiny asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Not wrong exactly. Just thinking about some big decisions. What kind of decisions? Business decisions. About whether to make the company much bigger than it is now. Destiny considered this seriously. Do you want it to be bigger? I'm not sure. Bigger would mean more money and more success, but it would also mean less time with you and Granny, and I'd have to travel a lot. Well, that's easy then. Easy how? Money's nice, but family's better. You already have enough money to be happy, right? So why would you want to trade time with people you love for more money you don't need? Out of the mouths of babes. That evening, Jasmine called Linda back. I'm honored by the opportunity, she said, but I'm going to pass. Are you sure? This kind of offer doesn't come along often. I'm sure. I've built the life I want, Linda. I don't need to risk it for someone else's idea of success. What if we could negotiate the travel requirements? What if? Linda, I appreciate you looking out for me, but my answer is no. I like the size we are. I like being involved with every client. I like being home for dinner with my daughter every night. That's worth more to me than any amount of money. There was silence on the other end of the line. You know what, Jasmine? I think you might be the smartest person I know. Later that night, after Destiny was asleep and Grace had gone to her room, Jasmine sat on her front porch with a glass of wine, looking out at the neighborhood she'd chosen to call home. Mrs. Mitchell was watering her flowers across the street. A young couple was walking their dog past her house, probably heading home from dinner somewhere downtown. The streetlights were just coming on, casting everything in a warm, golden glow. 3 years ago, her life had exploded in this very house. She discovered that her marriage was a lie, that the man she loved was a stranger, that the future she'd planned didn't exist. Now, sitting in the same place, she felt nothing but gratitude. Gratitude for the strength that had carried her through the worst period of her life. Gratitude for her daughter, who taught her that children were far more resilient and wise than adults gave them credit for. Gratitude for her mother, who'd provided not just support but the model of what it looked like to be a strong, independent woman. Gratitude for the community that had rallied around her when she needed it most. Gratitude for the business that had given her purpose and financial independence. Gratitude even for David, who'd forced her to discover who she was when she wasn't trying to be perfect for someone else. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Thank you for today. Destiny had an amazing party, and I know it was because of all the work you put into making her happy. You're an incredible mother." She texted back, "Thank you. You're becoming an incredible father. I'm trying. I want to be someone she can be proud of." "You already are." As she got ready for bed that night, Jasmine looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. Same face, same eyes, but somehow completely different from the woman who'd stood in this room 3 years ago trying to understand how her life had fallen apart. This woman wasn't trying to be perfect. She was trying to be real. This woman wasn't afraid of being alone. She was choosing her own company over bad company. This woman wasn't waiting for someone else to make her happy. She was building her own happiness from the ground up. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new decisions to make. But tonight, Jasmine Thompson, not Robert's, not anyone's wife, just herself, was exactly where she belonged. In her own house, with her own family, living her own life on her own terms. And that felt like the greatest victory of all.